Hey you guys, it's your girl AJ, the Glamour Witch, and I am back for another video. I know it's been a minute, but I am back today to do a video that honestly I'm surprised I never made a video like this before, but I'm going to be talking about all the things that I wish I would have known at the beginning of my practice. Now this is going to be a very lengthy video because I've learned a lot over my course of the last several years practicing and dedicating myself to this craft, and I would love to share it with you. If you're interested in learning more, just keep watching.
Come and cast a spell with me. Come and cast a spell with me.
Okay, so first things first, I have my little drink here. Thank you to Witchcraft Cocktails. I actually made my own little concoction, but I used a couple things in her book to create just something nice and light and fun. So thank you, girl. Appreciate you. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out right here. Anyways, or somewhere on the screen. One of the first things that I wish someone would have told me at the beginning of my practice is that I absolutely didn't need to work with a deity. That is one of the first things that most people assume you need to do to work with magic and spellcrafting and to get into this work, is that you have to choose a deity or a pantheon, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I still to this day don't really work with any deities unless there's a specific thing that I want to do, or a specific ritual or spell that I want to do that requires me to tap into those deities. But I very rarely do deity work just because of the dedication, the time, the energy, and the devotion that it takes to be able to make a connection, a strong connection and commitment in relationship with these deities, and to keep them happy. And just it's a very rewarding process, but it is much more complex than I think a beginning witch is thinking that it will be. And it actually stresses a lot of witches out, thinking about all the deities and which one they should choose and what's right for them. I feel called for this one, but I don't know. And I feel like I get that email and that message all the time, what deity to work with. I would say just focus on honing your own skills and your own power. You don't have to work with a deity if you don't want to, and there's no requirement to work with a deity. If you feel called to work with a deity, I would spend a lot of time researching about that deity's history, the things that deity likes and doesn't like, the type of offerings that you can give, and also make sure that if you're going to be working with that deity, that you are being aware of cultural appropriation and things of that nature. Okay? The next thing I wish I would have had someone share with me is it really doesn't do any harm for you to work with deities, but it is very, very important for you to have a relationship with your ancestors. I didn't start getting into ancestor work until much later on in my practice. And I can't express enough how valuable that has been in allowing me to not only see what's going on around me, to be able to pick up on signs, symbols, synchronicities, and to just generally have a support system that wasn't there prior because I just didn't have that connection. Having access to your ancestral support group is so amazing because they actually have a vested interest in your well-being. It benefits them to see you doing well and see you excel, right? And you are the reason that they survived and kept going, so that one day there could be someone who learns and loves the craft or this art, or steps into their healing abilities enough to free the ancestral line from pain and trauma and just things that keep getting repeated over and over in your own family and your own lineage. So when you work with them and you acknowledge them and you feed them and you clear this energy that is kind of connected to your ancestral line, it makes your craft much more powerful, much more potent, and it can save you so much time and headache with things like protection work and all sorts of stuff, because they're going to let you know that something's not right before anyone else or anything else, any other spell or candle or whatever the case may be. They're going to be your spiritual alarm system, and it is amazing. Also, not just for the protection aspect, because that's a really big benefit, but also because when you're going through a hard time, when you're going through difficult times, when you are feeling just like down on yourself or sad or just heartbroken or just struggling, that's like family, right? That's family that you can call upon even if you don't have a strong relationship with your own family in the physical. And it doesn't matter if you don't know who your ancestors are. And typically your ancestors are not people that you know, have never met. But typically they are people that are connected to you. They've been assigned to you, and people who died generations ago that you've never actually seen their face. And sometimes they are people that you know. So I would say even if you don't have any idea who your ancestors are, all you have to do is make an effort to make contact. I actually have a video here on YouTube on ancestor work, so if you want to get into that, go ahead and do that. But I think it's really important to at least tap into your ancestral line because, again, they have more of a vested interest in you, and you're going to get more of a response back from them than you ever would from a deity or another spirit that maybe, you know, they might care about you and they might be calling you forward. But I mean, there's nothing like having the support of your ancestors to empower your craft and remind you who you are and where you came from. Next is one of the biggest things. I mean, I write this down. I wrote this down. I have a little list here. It's a pretty long list. I wrote this down. This was not really an issue for me because I feel like I've always been a hands-on type of person. The way that I learn is by doing. It's not just, I definitely enjoy reading and taking in knowledge in that way. But the way that it sticks and the way that I expand it and the way that it translates within my body, my mind, and my soul to become a part of my practice and my craft and who I am as a person is by doing. And so this next one is read as many books and as much information as you can online or whatever the case may be. Obviously, you want to make sure they're reputable sources. You want to cross-reference a lot of this information. And then you also want to use your own intuition. As many books, articles, and information as you possibly can while simultaneously doing magic. Too many people buy thousands of books and download thousands of books and read some of them, sometimes not even all of them, or read a bunch of them and never actually do any magic. This is a waste of your fucking time. Honestly, it's a waste of your time. Why buy a bunch of books on magic and spells and rituals and then you never test to see if any of that is applicable to your practice, if you like it, if it flows with you, if it feels good to you? You're just reading and taking in a bunch of information and it might not even be vital for you. It might not even work for you, right? So if you are going to read a book on herbal magic, then you need to start also incorporating ways where you can use herbal magic in your daily life. How can you incorporate that? By maybe making yourself a cup of tea, a new type of tea every day, and infusing it with energy according to its metaphysical properties or its magical properties. Having a relationship with these things immediately upon reading them can actually allow you to get better and stronger at discerning if something is bullshit. And a lot of times when you read a bunch of books, especially beginner witch books, they're all saying the same thing. And unfortunately, a lot of beginner witchcraft books are Wiccan based. So if you're not a Wiccan practitioner, if you're not interested in that, you can read a ton of books on beginner herbalism, beginner crystal magic, beginner spell crafting. And most of these authors are people who practice the Wiccan tradition, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you're somebody who is interested in exploring something else that's more rooted in your own lineage, your own background, or you just don't really find that you agree with that, it's going to be very exhausting. So that's why I'm saying if you read these books, that's fine, but then get into the practice. Read the book and then try one of the spells in the book that is appropriate for you at this time, right? Put it to the test and see, because the more you get better at doing the actual magic, the reading the books is going to be the first step, and the actually engaging with it and having the relationship with it and it benefiting your life is what you're ultimately going after. So don't just collect a bunch of books and never read them, and don't collect a bunch of books and never do the magic in the books. It's a waste of your time. Next, write everything down, which I cannot tell you enough how valuable it is to write down everything that you are doing in your magic. I still have issues doing this because every once in a while I'll do an intuitive spell, or I'll just do something off the cuff that I feel like I need to do, and I won't write it down because it's just coming out of me, right? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna make this again, and then I make it, and it's actually very potent and really, really good, and I'm trying to figure out what I put in it, and it's just not the same, and I know that there's an ingredient that I'm missing, and I can't remember it, right? Write everything down. And not just because you don't want to forget about how you made it and how, whatever the case may be, but you want to track to see how it manifested, how well your abilities are improving. And when you go back into your book of shadows, which is why we have book of shadows, grimoires, spell books, when you go back in the future and you look at those things, you can see, okay, you know what? I really was misusing Bay. I was not utilizing it the same way that I am now. Or maybe I can actually transform this ritual and this spell and improve upon it. Or, wow, I forgot I had ever made that spell. I totally forgot that I did this, and I forgot the amazing result that I had with it. Let me try it again. It's so important to write these things down, and not just the spells and rituals that you do, but anything that happens to you during your practice. You can treat it kind of like a journal or a diary of your magical experiences, where you write down stuff like your dreams, where you write down magical things that have happened to you, signs, symbols, and all different types of stuff. Or it can just be your spell book. I would also recommend that you get more than one, and I would recommend you get something that you're not going to treat so preciously that you don't even want to write in it, because that was my first problem. I got this really nice spell book, and I didn't want to write in it because I didn't want to mess up. So I found myself writing in it, and then when I messed up one word, I'd rip the page out and try to start all over again because I didn't want there to be any imperfections, because I had seen all these glorious books and spell books that people had hand-drawn images, and I'm not a drawer. I don't know how to draw for shit. So I was just like, I want mine to look good. Like, what the hell is everybody like learning how to like draw specifically for their spell books? I would say there's going to be a time and a day when you get so good at writing your spells in, you're going to be able to transfer a lot of the stuff that you've written over the course of your time and all those other books into one solid, beautiful, crispy ass spell book. And if you're really somebody who is afraid of messing up, get a binder, a 3-ring binder, so that you can pull out pages as you see fit and put pages back in. This will allow you the freedom to expand and also transfer. Like if you want to put more in, less in, whatever the case may be, spells don't work for you anymore, you can take it out. But I would say don't get something so precious that you don't want to write in it. And if you feel like you can't trust yourself, get a 3-ring binder. It's not going to take away from the magical impact of having a book of shadows, right? Okay, I digress. Next, I wish someone would have explained to me how to have a relationship with herbs. A lot of herbal magic books do talk about this, and I do have a few, but I didn't read nearly as much about herbal magic as I probably should have at the beginning. And I never took the time to have a relationship with the herbs individually. And what I mean by that is, when I would do spells and rituals and I would see their metaphysical properties, and I was just assuming like, okay, well, that's what it's for. So, okay, I'm just going to pick it out of the bag and pour it over the candle, or pick it out of the bag and put it in the mortar and pestle and grind it up, or whatever the case may be. I never had a relationship with it. I didn't actually know if it felt like that for me. I didn't recognize the immense power that these herbs have to have multiple meanings, not just the ones that are characterized in a book that someone else has written for their own magical experiences. How I use rosemary and how you use rosemary could be two completely different ways. You might use it for all your protection work, and I might feel like it's too weak. The point that I'm making is have a relationship with these ingredients. Don't just put them into things and never really understand what it means to you. So what does that look like? Taking a, let's say you have some lavender, or let's say you have rose, or let's say you have some peppermint or something, and these are dried. Take a little bit of the herb, place it in your hand, and just for a second, I want you to look at this herb examine the patterns of the herb, if it has textures or lines or whatever. How does it feel in your hand as you're rubbing it? What is the smell? What does the smell invoke in you? What is it you automatically start to think about when you smell the herb? Okay, now if you crush it between your fingers, what does that sound feel like to you? Like, every little thing that you can do to attach and associate a sensual connection with the herb is going to inform you of how it may be able to be transformed into something for spell work, right? So maybe you have a little bit in, maybe it's something that you can eat, right? If it's something that you can eat, please. If it's not something that you can eat and it's poisonous or it's toxic, please do not put it in your mouth and eat it. But maybe you want to take a little bit of it and you want to take a couple of bites, okay? How does that play out on the tongue? How does it taste for you, right? All of this. And then maybe you want to talk to the herb and say, show me, you know, how you protect, show me how you control, show me how you unlock. Like, really have a communication with the herb before you plant it into a ritual or spell. This is going to surprise you at how the herb responds back to you, how it doesn't just take in the information that you're blessing and activating it with, but it already has information stored in it. And if you know how to tap into what's already there, then you know how to manipulate it, you know how to transform it, you know how to alchemize it, right? And that's the power of doing magic and being a practitioner and being a witch, is that we are able to bend things to our will and transform things that seemingly don't have very much meaning other than the mundane meaning that most people associate it with, right? So having this little moment, and I teach this, I taught this in a class that I did before 2020, before a pandemic, and we did that. Each herb that we put into the candle, each herb that we put into our oils, we first had a moment with it, and we all got a chance to speak about what it was that we felt individually from that herb. And you'd be surprised, people had completely different things that came up for them when holding the herb, right? So have a relationship with your herbs, and for that matter, all of your ingredients that you're going to be using. Communicate with them, listen to them, so that you can better understand how they work for you in your practice. Oh my God, this one I gotta take a drink for. Ooh, I got so much to share with you guys. This one is really important, okay? And I wish someone would have told me this at the beginning of my practice, because I waited too long and I experienced too many fucked up things that I didn't need to. Learn protection magic as soon as you possibly can. I get it that a lot of people get into magic because they either want to get into love magic or love spells, or they want to get more money, or they want to just feel better, right? They want to feel better. And very rarely do people take the time to learn protection magic, because it seems kind of boring and not as fun as the other things, because protection magic is so interesting, right? You don't always see the benefits of what protection magic can do for you in the immediate. Where if you cast a spell to get a job and you see that the job is now available and now yours, that is a response and a reaction and a result that you can see and benefit from in the immediate, in a way that it can be very satisfying and triggering, and these endorphins in the brain of excitement around doing magic, right? And protection magic can sometimes be very clear, right? You can very clearly see, like, oh my gosh, I was so protected in that situation, or that could have went totally left. Or it could be just as simple as, oh, I haven't experienced any misfortune in the last couple of months because I've been very consistent with my protection work and my cleansing and clearing work. When you get good at protection work, you save yourself a lot of headache on other aspects and other, areas, such as money, your health, your emotional well-being, your love connections, and things of that nature. Learning protection magic in every single realm and every single aspect is going to help prevent a lot of other things that you have to maybe deal with later on down the line. Nobody really wants to go to that place, but I would say that's probably one of the most important types of magics that you want to learn at the beginning. Also, because you never know what is going to be attracted to you when you start doing this work. A lot of times when people start practicing magic and they start opening themselves up to their own power and they start to realize things and they start to see things, they begin to see that there's a lot of things around them that drain them of their energy. There's a lot of toxic people around them. They wake up and they realize that they no longer were in this ignorance is bliss bubble that they felt like was protecting them, but ultimately was just allowing whatever was around them to continue to take advantage and drain them and do who knows what else, behind the scenes. Now they see it and they feel it and they know that it's there, and it can create more anxiety. Although that thing may have already been there and had been playing out in their life for a long time, now because they know it's there and they can see it clearly, it somehow provides more stress and anxiety. If you learn protection magic and you learn how to protect yourself while you're doing spells and rituals and all these things, even if you're not casting a spell to attack someone, or you're not casting a spell to do some reversal work or whatever the case, return to sender, it's not some heavy thing you need to protect yourself from. Anything that you're doing, money magic, love, healing, protection magic is going to be a great support system to any work that you're doing, so that if something or someone is trying to interfere with you doing the things that you want to do in your life, you already have a shield up safeguarding you against attack. Okay? Very, 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 very important. Can't harp on it enough. Okay? I know y'all lazy. A lot of y'all motherfuckers is lazy. All you guys want to do is go on TikTok and watch a couple videos, and you don't want to do the goddamn work. That's why I'm making this video for you, bitch. Okay? I see you. I see you. Divination is so important, okay? For multiple reasons. Strengthening your divination power is strengthening your intuition. It's strengthening your psychic ability. It's strengthening this part of you that allows you to be able to connect to things like pendulums, runes, tarot cards. There's a lot of different forms of divination. And this is a way that we are able to talk and communicate with spirit, the universe, to get answers about certain things that we may be doing in our lives, okay? Not only is it great to be able to tell like your future, ask about your future or future events, right? That's mostly why people will do it, but it's great for magical work because you can see how your spells are going to manifest before they manifest. Oh my God. And you can stop stressing out about it, whether or not it's gonna work. This one kills me because I wish I could go back in time and be like, bitch, stop worrying about it. Your worry about whether or not the spell is gonna work is hijacking the spell and is actually making it not work, right? The lusting for results is another one of those things. Don't lust for results and get all anxious in your head about it. And a way to not do that is to do your spell, do your ritual. And I would even say before you do the spell and ritual, should I do this? Is it a good idea to do this ritual? Am I supported by my spiritual team? And they're going to be like, yes, or no, you need to like do something else. You need to be paying attention to something else, right? And sometimes you're not always going to do that, right? Sometimes you're just going to do a ritual and spell and it's just going to happen. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what I would do. And I wish someone would have told me, okay? After you are done doing the spell, it can be right after, or it could be the next day. You let it breathe. You can pull cards and see, tell me about the success of my spell. Tell me about the success of the spell that I just did. And allow the divination in the cards. I would say pendulum magic is probably not the way to go with this because it doesn't give you, it's more of a yes or no type of thing, right? So I would say just stick to things like tarot, to runes. If you have other ways that you do divination that can give you some other clear aspects, especially if you're at the beginning of your craft, those are typically the two that people will start with because they're a little bit easier to get answers and like learn from at the beginning, and you know what I mean? So just stick to like cards and stuff like that. But if you are trying to figure out how it manifests, if you can see that it's going to manifest really well, or that it's supported, or that's going to come in quickly, or, you know, there could be some hiccups or some snags, you now have insight on how to move forward. So if you get confirmation that, yeah, I mean, it's going to work, but then there's going to be something that you weren't expecting, and that's going to kind of come in and fuck with it. Now you know, okay, maybe I need to do a protection working around this, or maybe I need to do a road opener, or maybe I need to stop the spell and do something else and wait, whatever that may be, right? Or maybe you're like, okay, it's gonna manifest. Great, awesome. Let the candle burn, let the thing do what it's gonna do, and you live your life because you already got your answer and Spirit already told you what was going on, and now you don't even have to worry about it. Don't even have to trip, and you don't have to fuck up your spell because you didn't know if it was gonna work or not. That one just irks me so bad. I wish I could go back in time. So bad for that one. Cleanse everything you are using before you start your spell. Cleanse everything you are using before you start your spell. I feel like that goes without saying, but I feel like no, it doesn't, because people will just jump right into a spell and they will not cleanse the candle. They won't cleanse the space. They won't cleanse the room. They won't cleanse themselves. You are a part of the thing that you're using to do the spell, so you gotta cleanse yourself. And this is the reason why we cleanse before we start rituals, because there are already energies happening. There's always energy going on. We're just energetic bodies moving through time and space, right? And energy can be stored and held in so many different things, especially living things like plants, crystals, and you, bitch. And before you start doing a spell, you want to make sure that the energy is in a clean slate. If you're going to go paint something on a canvas, you don't want there to already be a painting there. You want it to be completely white, so when you go to put your paint on there, there is nothing else there cluttering the energy, right? Cleanse everything before you start to do your work, because you're going to find that the times that you don't cleanse your shit before you start to do the work, oh my God, the spells just don't turn out the way that you wanted to do, or they don't manifest at all because there is stagnancy around it, or something weird happens that you're like, huh, you know, I was thinking about that. It's interesting that came up because I was kind of thinking about that when I was doing the spell. And this is why it's important too, and I teach this in my spell craftings class, which is basically just like learning how to make spells and rituals 101, right? When you're first starting. It's important that when you're writing in your book of shadows, not just the ingredients and the purpose of the spell and the time and the day, but how you felt and what you were feeling during the spell and before the spell, during the spell, and after the spell. Because this can actually show up. These energies that you have within you can actually show up in the magic, because you're transferring energy from your own thinking, from your body, from your energetic vibration, your auric field, into the work, right? So if before the work you were feeling anxious and tired, and maybe during the work you started to kind of feel a little bit better, but still there was lingering in the back of your mind, and you kept getting distracted or interrupted because people were coming in and out of the room, or people kept calling you, or you started going on TikTok and you weren't really, your energy was on and off with it, that might show up in the way that the spell manifests, right? So just do yourself a favor, cleanse yourself beforehand. And this takes me into my next part. It's also very important for you to learn things like grounding and centering yourself before you do spell work. The reason why grounding and centering your energy is important is because it allows you to tap into your center, obviously, and to pull energy from the earth instead of using your energy and draining yourself after every single spell. This is going to help you, especially for people who get fatigued after doing spell work. Stay in your power, keep your energetic vibration, and be able to do a spell and go about your day and not feel drained. Okay? And you never know, if you get really good at pulling energy from the earth and really good at centering yourself, it might actually bring more power into the work than your own personal essence, right? So grounding and centering is just as important as cleansing, as any other ingredient that you are using in this process of making spells, right? The next thing I want to talk about is intention, right? Everybody says intention is the most important thing. And to a certain degree, I would agree with that. Intention is really important, but it is not the most important thing. Because you may be intending to get money, but just because you intended to do that does not mean that it's going to come about just because you're intending. Okay, and again, I talk about this, I go more into depth on this in my class, and that's going to actually be available on my website. You can actually purchase the class and rewatch it whenever you want, and there's a bunch of little add-ons to it as well. But I talk about intention, making a strong statement of intent so that you can be clear about what it is that you want and know with absolute certainty that this is the thing that you want. But knowing your goal and your target of what that intention is almost, to me, more important, right? And also being able to visualize what it is that you want to see the spell do for you is also one of the more important things, because you can say you intend to have this thing all you want, but if you can't even see it in your mind's eye, then how are you going to pull that energy forward from yourself during the spell work, right? And if you don't know the difference between your target and your goal, then your spell could just die before it ever lands where it's supposed to go. Your target is the thing that the magic is affecting, and your goal is basically your statement of intent, right? If I want to do a spell to help my friend who is sick in the hospital and has some type of an illness, my goal is for healing, right? But my target may not be to heal my friend. My target may be that they get the best medical assistance when they're in the hospital. My target might be if they have to go into surgery, that their surgeon has a hawk eye and precision when going and doing the surgery, and everything is perfect. My target might be that whatever is going on inside their body, if it's a mass, if it's an illness, it starts to dissipate, whatever the case may be. That's the target. But my overall goal is for health of this individual. And knowing the difference between those two things is how you avoid spending energy and effort on something that is not going to get you what you want. Okay? These are very important things to know in doing your spell work. And I just gave you guys a bunch of stuff in my class, so you're welcome me. Let's talk about what I know a lot of you guys probably came on here to see, because it's just so funny to me. It's so funny to me. I don't have any videos really up about this for very specific reasons. Not because I don't do it, but because I don't know. But y'all like it, so we're going to talk about it. And that is baneful magic. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I am going to talk about it. When I first started the craft and the practice, I didn't even consider doing baneful magic. One, because I didn't understand it. I thought it was bad. And to me, it felt like if I started to do baneful magic, somehow I would become a bad witch, an evil witch. And I would feed into this stereotype that people have about witches, which is that they're casting these evil spells on people and doing fucked up things to fuck up their life. Now, let me tell you right now, that's true. There are witches out here that are just fucking with people and they're assholes like that. Don't get me wrong. There are straight bitches in this craft, but that's just people. That has nothing to do with the magic itself. If you're a petty witch, if you're a petty person, you're going to be a petty witch. If you're a shitty person, you're going to be a shitty asshole witch. You see what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with magic itself. Magic is a tool. It's like a knife could be used to cut up a delicious meal for your family and feed people. It could be used to cut you loose from something and save your life. And it can also be used to harm. Okay? So it's not the tool that is the bad thing. It's how it's used. And that's what I have to say about baneful magic, okay? It's not that baneful magic is evil and inherently bad. It's how you use it and why you're using it. And this is the reason why at the beginning of my practice, I didn't want to do anything about it, or I didn't want to even read about it, because I was fearful that it was going to turn me into a bad person. And I wanted to discover who I was before I started to throw baneful magic at people. But I felt like that was even a mistake. I look back and that maybe was a mistake for me, because a lot of times learning about the things that we're afraid of, or learning about the things that are out there, is the smartest thing you can do to protect yourself against those things. Because if I would have learned about baneful magic and all the ways that people can fuck with you, I would have made antidotes, and I would have been more adamant about my protection work. It would have showed up in so many other aspects, and I would have thought about so many other things that were happening in my life, why I was randomly all of a sudden experiencing so much misfortune, because you don't know who's a witch, you don't know who's practicing magic, you don't know who's cousin, who family member, who's whatever, and who's calling and hiring people to do this work for them. So if you know what kind of symptoms people have when they're experiencing baneful magic, if you know what kind of baneful magic is out there and how intense and crazy it can get sometimes, you can be a better witch, a smarter witch, a stronger witch, and a witch that can see some shit coming a mile away and maybe help someone else who is in need. I wish I would have known that at the beginning of my craft, because I would have been a fucking warrior. Because I know a lot of people. I look back on some shit that I was seeing people go through in my life and that I went through, and there were very clearly baneful magic attacks, and I could have helped them if I would have known what it was that was happening, because then I would be able to find a way to defend myself against it. Okay? Take heed my word of wisdom. And also, something else I want to say about baneful magic is that it's a type of battle magic and a type of defense magic. So it is not inherently evil, but it can do a lot of damage. So if you're going to use battle magic on someone, just make sure that you know that this person is trying to fuck with you and you're ready for a fight, which means that this person could also fight back. Okay? So just keep your nose clean. Don't do fucked up shit to people just willy-nilly. And if you honestly, I can't tell you what to do. And I don't give a fuck to tell you what to do. And that's not what I'm about. I'm too Aquarius to tell anyone what they should and shouldn't be doing. I don't like to be told what to do, so I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I advise you to do, and that's it. But don't be just trying to fuck with people who you don't know what kind of protection and what kind of skill set they have to fight back. Because you might find that you are ill-equipped to handle what they send back at you, or that your magic doesn't even affect them. It only sends trigger warnings to them about you, right? And you don't know what kind of other type of things, that ripple effects that might happen from you doing baneful magic on somebody that's close to you. You might actually be negatively impacted if you don't know how to protect yourself from that. Again, protection magic is very important for this reason, okay? The Dollar Tree, Dollar General, and general craft stores are your best magical friends, okay? You do not need to go to a metaphysical shop. You do not need to go to on the most expensive witchy sites or shop on these online places. Look, all I'm saying is there's a reason why you buy things from actual witches and people who have metaphysical shops, and there are things that you want to get from those places. But if you are a young witch, you're a witch that is on a budget, and or you're a solitary witch, or you're somebody who's in the closet, then you can buy things from the Dollar Tree and normal places like candles and herbs and containers and mason jars and all different types of things that you can use in your craft in these places, and you don't have to break the bank, okay? I might even do a video here in the future on budget witchcraft and give you guys some tips on things that I would use for different types of spell workings. But it can be such a beneficial thing, Leo. It can be so beneficial to know that you don't actually have to spend a ton of money on stuff that you can go to the Dollar Tree and get, or you can go to your local arts and crafts store and get these things. Cloths to make sachets and all different types of stuff, different colored strings, and all types of stuff. Insane amount of things that you can get from the craft store, and also different types of colored candles too, because places like I don't shop here anymore, but Hobby Lobby and Michael's and other places like that, they will sell different colored types of taper candles and other types of candles. Places that sells incense and all that as well are going to be great for your craft, and they don't have to be super pricey items. Okay, this is something that I also wish I would have known. There is a spell out there for every solution, and whether it is in a book or whether you create it, there is a spell for almost every problem, right? Every problem that you could possibly imagine. It's about being able to use your imagination on ways that you would approach it. This is why expanding your knowledge, your wisdom, and having a strengthened intuition can be very, very vital when making and crafting your own spells. Because when I would go into these books and I was looking for spells for auditions or spells to help me leave my body and transform into the character when the lights hit me, something that would just make that happen as soon as the lights hit my face when I came on stage, there was no spells like that. There were no spells to help me figure out how to improve my vocal cords and my singing. Like now I've found a couple of them, but back in the day I couldn't find any beginner books about how to improve my singing and my songwriting. Maybe there were creativity and inspiration spells, but nothing along that line. And I had to make my own spells. And if you believe in yourself and you trust your intuition and you use things like your angelic or your spiritual guidance or your ancestral guidance to help you make a spell for something that you know is not out there yet, I'm telling you, it is going to make your life so much easier, and it's going to make you feel like such a badass, because every issue and problem that life throws at you, you're going to be solution oriented, you're going to be goal oriented, and you're going to want to use all of your wisdom and knowledge to find a way to fix the issue, right? And that is a place where you will become your full-fledged master magician level witch. Okay, we're talking about high level witches, we're talking about seasoned witches. It's people who never quit looking and searching for answers and trying to improve their experience with magic and improve their magical success rate. Okay, so there is a solution for any problem out there. You can either find it in a book or you can make that spell yourself. But don't quit because you can't find a spell on how to help you improve your ability to learn languages, right? Or you can't find a spell that will help you better your relationship with your cousin, right? Who maybe doesn't speak. You know what I mean? Maybe have a better psychic connection with them so that they feel bonded to you even though you can't communicate the way that you would communicate with other people. Just because there's not a spell for that specific thing that may be unique to your issue in your life does not mean that you cannot make a spell for it. But it does require self-confidence and belief and a little bit of knowledge and some trial and error. And if you are willing to do that, I promise you you're going to find more beauty in this craft than you ever thought was possible. You still with me? Because we still got a whole backside, okay? I came with the tea today. So this is something that I also wish that someone would have told me, and I am also going to take a sip for this. Don't trust all witches. Do not trust every witch that you meet. Just because they are like-minded, just because they also practice and you don't have to hide that you're a practitioner of magic, does not mean that they are trustworthy. I'm not saying to be distrusting. I'm not saying not to open your heart. I'm not saying don't make friends in the witchy community. That is not what I am saying. Because those can be some of your best friends and your greatest allies. And they can be the most fun relationships that you ever had in your whole life. I have met some incredible people in this community, but I have also met some very ugly people. And I was under the impression naively that all the witches in the community were looking out for each other because we had experienced so much oppression over the hundreds and thousands of years that witches have existed. That I finally found a group of people and a community that understood this oppression so heavily that they wouldn't dare try to destroy someone who will continue to keep the legacy alive. And it be another witch that will come after you and curse you and do things to ruin your success long before it will be some regular muggle, non-magical person who's going to contact a practitioner to do work on you. Don't trust every witch you meet. Period. Dating non-magical people or muggles. There are advantages and the disadvantages. So let's talk about the advantages of dating a non-magical person, right? The advantages is that if you're interested in growing with a person and you don't really care if that person is into it, you don't really want them to be like into magic as well. Like, you know, you don't want to have to feel like this person is also doing like whatever. Like if you don't like that, it's kind of like similar to how people don't necessarily want to date someone who's also an artist, like also a painter, also whatever, because it can create a little bit of like weirdness or competition. Like there could be an advantage of not having a non-magical person and being the magical person that, you know, gets to live your life in that way, right? Especially if the person that you're dating is open-minded and they are cool with it, and they don't give a fuck about whether or not you're, you know, lighting candles and they're not scented, they're just regular ass candles, or maybe you're gonna be charging your crystals under the moonlight. They don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. They know that it's your spiritual practice and they're supportive of it, but they bring something else to the table and you love them for that. Like, you know, you don't always have to be with somebody who's interested in all the same things as you. And I think that it takes a very special type of person to allow someone to have their spiritual beliefs and not actually also believe in it or need to believe in it for them to love you and for them to respect you and respect what it is that you're doing. I think that's a very powerful trait, and some people do not have that. So that's why I say dating non-magical people can sometimes have disadvantages, because you don't always know if you can trust them. And you might find that you start dating someone and you don't tell them right away that you're a practitioner of magic. You don't tell them right away that you're a witch. And then they find out eventually because they come over to your house and they see all your shit. Or they come over and they see that you got candles burning and all types of shit. And now they're afraid of you, right? And yeah, you know, you don't always know how they're gonna react, right? And you don't want to have to hide yourself. You never want to hide yourself in a relationship. And when I first started the craft, at the time when I first started, I wasn't really seeing anyone, but I did feel very nervous about guys and girls knowing that I was practicing magic, right? Because sometimes I would do glamour magic, or sometimes I would do love spells and stuff like that to try to heighten the attraction and the seduction of a situation to, you know, bring them in, pull them in, and you know, they may be enjoying it, but if they know that it's me doing magic, they might freak out. And I've had plenty of situations where someone found a candle or a crystal in my space and was like, ugh, like, I don't know, you know, because they are a devout Christian, or because they just don't understand what it is that I'm doing and what I'm about. They just automatically assume that it's evil, right? And you may have experienced such pleasant emotions towards this person, and then all of a sudden the relationship is over just merely because you decided to stand in who you are, right? And show them who you were fully. And so there can be disadvantages in that way. The disadvantage as well is that sometimes when you don't feel like, you know, you're strong enough to do something, like you're having a bad go of it or a bout of something, or something's coming up for you that's like, maybe you're being under attack, you're under psychic attack or something, it can be beneficial to have somebody who's also magical and spiritual who can support you in that time. I'm sorry, there's like, I have like a moth trying to attack me. It can be beneficial to have somebody who is also magical and spiritual to support you and to make your surroundings, cleanse your surroundings, bring peace into your surroundings, raise the vibration. To have somebody there that also kind of knows what time it is and what's going on can be so beneficial, because they can hold space for you on times where you can't hold space. It's not always your responsibility to do the cleansing and the clearing and the protecting. And if you guys want to strengthen your relationship, you're like, oh babe, I feel like we should do this ritual and spell together. Oh, it's gonna be a full moon, or maybe they're more into astrology, or maybe you're more into moon magic, or whatever the case may be. Like, having somebody who's also into these things with you can make your relationship even more rich and more full, because now you're with somebody who completely understands you and you don't have to hide anything. And so not having a non-magical person can be a disadvantage, because you'll spend a lot of time either teaching them how to do all these things, and then you're just teaching them, and you're not actually getting to just exist and be who you are, or be able to be someone who learns something from them. And again, I'm not saying that that's how it is all the time, but sometimes it's just, it can get exhausting, right? And you want to have somebody who just gets it. And that is just so amazing. But I know tons of witches, especially here on social media, who date non-magical people and even marry non-magical people and have kids with them and live a happy life. And that's totally fine. But me personally, I want a magical person. I do not want to date or marry a muggle. End of story. You don't have to be raised in a magical home or have magical witchy people around you or know about your witch lineage to practice magic and to be a witch. Again, I have a lot of people in my DMs asking me about that. Like, well, what if I don't know? Like, how do I know if I'm a witch? Like, I grew up in a Catholic home, or I grew up Jewish, or I grew up this or that or whatever. Like, no one around me was a witch. Like, does that mean that I am or not? Like, and it's like, you have no idea who your ancestors were back in the day and how many of them had these gifts and abilities. And maybe they didn't call themselves a witch because, one, you literally couldn't do that back in the day. You would literally be killed, called a heretic, or whatever the case may be, and then strung up for the entire city to see you, or burned at the stake, or thrown over a cliff. So yeah, no, you're not going to know necessarily always about the people in your lineage who are practitioners of magic. It doesn't mean that you can't be a practitioner of magic. It doesn't mean you can't be a witch just because you don't know any other witches in your family, and just because nobody in your immediate family or anyone that you know is a practitioner of magic and you grew up in a different religion. I grew up in a Christian home. Most of my family members are still Christian to this day. My mom is a pastor. My dad is a Christian relationships coach. And I still am a practitioner of magic. Still a big ass witch out here. Big witch energy, okay? That doesn't mean that it's going to stop you from stepping into your path. There's no like, oh, you have to come from a long line of witches to practice witchcraft. No, you might be the one that creates that long lineage of witches. So don't hold yourself back just because you don't have all this extra wisdom or knowledge, because you're not a Halliwell or, you know, whatever the case may be. Like, I don't know, what's the practical magic witches? Fuck, what's her name? I don't even know. You know what I'm talking about. The long line of witches, right? And the family curse and the family grimoire and charmed and all this other stuff. Just because you don't have that does not mean that you cannot practice magic. And it doesn't mean that you can't start that with your family line, okay? I wish someone would have told me to learn how to do reversal magic. To reverse spells. Any spell, not just shit that you were doing baneful on someone, not just whatever, any spell. To learn how to reverse something gives you so much power, because you might jump the gun and do a spell for something and then realize later like, ooh, no, I need to reverse that. I need to pull back. What if you do a love spell on someone and you realize that that motherfucker is crazy? Is crazy. And you don't know a single reversal spell? You don't even know how to make a reversal oil? You don't even know where to buy a reversal oil? Oh, Witch, what you doing? What you doing? You fucking yourself up. That's what you're doing. Next would be love spells. Okay, let's talk about love spells. A lot of times people categorize love spells as baneful magic because it is going against someone's free will and could create negative or adverse effects. And it's also highly frowned upon for beginners because they don't understand the way that love spells can impact negatively their life and the person that they're doing a love spell on. And it's kind of like, you don't want to start a relationship off with a kidnapping, right? You also don't want to do a love spell on somebody that you don't really know yet. And like I said before, you do a love spell on them and they actually are someone that's really toxic, very dangerous, and who is negatively impacting your life and a drain on your life. And now they're bonded to you and tethered to you through this magical spell that you've done, right? And if you can do a spell, you need to be able to also know how to break it, how to do an antidote. This is why reversal magic is so important. But love spells are really tricky because let's say you do a love spell on your coworker, right? Like there's some coworker that you like at your job and they haven't really noticed you. You're like kind of shy, but you really like them and you've talked to them a couple times, but you just want to get them to notice you, right? You're not necessarily going to jump right into a love spell. You might do attraction work on yourself, right? You might do a spell on yourself to make you more attractive and more alluring towards people in general, or you could just be more attractive to that person so that they want to talk to you, so that they want to get to know you, right? You're not actually trying to make them feel anything or fall in love with you. You just want to get their attention so that they want to take interest in you and spend time getting to know you, and then you get to figure out if there's someone worth a damn, right? And again, I can't harp on this enough. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I am not trying to tell you what to do. Okay, witch? You can do whatever you want to do. If you want to do a love spell on somebody, you can do that. This is not my ministry is trying to tell you what to do. But I wouldn't do it. I would not do it because it just never goes the way that you think. And then you could find out you might do a love spell on someone, and this has happened to me many times. This has happened to me way too many times. So I'm speaking from experience. You do a love spell on someone, you forget about it or something, or maybe something happens, you meet someone else or something else happens and you realize, I don't really like them. And now they are in love with you. It's embarrassing, and it makes you feel shitty because now you're the asshole who's rejecting them. And you're also the asshole that put the love spell on them. So just wait. What's an appropriate time to do a love spell? If you're already in a relationship, a love spell on yourself, meaning to love yourself, right? To be passionately in love with who you are. That's a great thing to do a love spell for. And if you're going to do some type of love spell to attract a lover, to just attract a lover and a soulmate and not have a generalized target or a person that you're targeting, that is also okay. Those types of love spells are great because it allows the universe to bring you someone who's actually right for you, as opposed to you tethering yourself to a person and projecting a image onto that person of who you think that they are and who you want them to be, but instead finding a person who actually is what you want. You don't have to tell anyone that you're a witch. You don't have to tell anyone that you are a witch. You don't have to tell anyone that you are a witch unless you want to. Because it's nobody's fucking business except yours. But you want to ask yourself, why am I not wanting to tell people that I am a practitioner of magic? Is it because I am ashamed, embarrassed, afraid of losing friendships and family and all this other stuff? Is it me? Is it going to be the detriment of me being the full version of myself? Or am I totally okay with if people find out or don't find out? I just don't need to go and advertise it for the world. That's the only time you need to be worried about why you're doing something. Why am I hiding my spiritual beliefs? Why am I hiding a part of myself? But you don't actually need to tell anybody that you're a witch. Nobody needs to know. I'm a practitioner of magic. I'm on here right now because this is my life purpose, is to teach other people about magic and spirituality and healing and transforming their reality and bending this universe to their will and going in and knowing the cheat codes to switch up their simulation and have better experiences. That's my fucking life mission, as well as being an artist and a creator. So I am already putting myself out there. Not every pet is a familiar, okay? Not every goddamn fucking pet that you have is a familiar. Your fish is not a familiar, okay? Just because you went to Petco or whatever shelter and bought a pet, you had a great connection with it, it does not mean that that pet is your familiar, okay? Familiars come to you. They typically show up in your life. You don't typically go out and get them. Do you see what I'm saying? They come to heal. Leo came into my life. I did not go out and search for Leo. As a matter of fact, he wasn't even my cat when I first met him. He was somebody else that I was living with's cat from their previous relationship. And now Leo is in my dream. Like, Leo protects me in my dream state. Like, we have a completely different relationship. And I would consider Leo a familiar to a certain degree. But not all of the pets that I've ever had in my life were, I would consider that. They were just great. I loved them. They were great pets. But they were not familiars. Get good at meditation. Because getting good at meditation is getting good at magic, is getting good at controlling your mind, is getting good at controlling your thoughts, is getting good at controlling your energy, and it's going to save you so much legwork when actually doing the spell itself, because you're going to know how to calm yourself and get into the zone, which also goes into ground and centering. Get good at meditation. You're never going to regret being good at meditation, okay? Angels and demons are equally helpful and destructive. Angels and demons are equally helpful and destructive. How much do you really know about angels, really? And I'm not talking about cherubs, and I'm not talking about a white man with wings depicted as Archangel Michael. Have you noticed that all the angels' depictions are white people? Also, that's kind of annoying. That's really fucking annoying. Anyways, typically angels don't look like people. They look freaky. And you would think that an angel was a demon if you saw them in their truest form. They may appear to you in human form or in something that's humanoid or whatever to not freak you out. But what angels actually look like are freaky as hell. I'm telling you, go Google what angels look like or what they have been described as in the Bible and throughout history. And I promise you, you will be shocked. Okay? And I also promise you will be shocked that not every angel, there's tons of different types of angels, not just Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, Michael, you know, all these like, you know, the ones that everyone knows about, right? There are hundreds of thousands of leagues of angels and different sections and rankings and all different types of stuff, and they are capable of the most amazing things that can help benefit your life and transform and heal you and help you grow and expand and be so beneficial. And they can also do some fucking damage, and they don't care necessarily. And I feel like this is a misconception. People think like, oh, angels are nicer and demons are meaner or something. And honestly, that's not necessarily the case, right? It's not about nicer or mean or good or bad. That's human concepts, right? But angels will do things maybe for your highest good and the highest benefit. And that also can mean dragging you through things that are more painful. Whereas a demon might skirt and get around some things and maybe cut a couple of corners to get you just what you want right off the bat and be a little bit more forceful towards getting your goal. also you got to think about Archangel Michael. Why would you think that Archangel Michael is just like a soft and like light and airy angel when he's literally depicted like cutting people's heads off? Like, you know what I mean? He's a warrior spirit. So like, you have to be a very like dominant and aggressive energy and a force to be reckoned with to be able to go head to head with Lucifer or other demons and like destroy them, right? You have to also be an agent of chaos and destruction to do that, you know, on both sides of the spectrum. So the point of me saying this is that when we call on angels, or when we think negative things about demons, or people who in the craft who work only with angels and people who only work with demons, I want you to think about the capacity of using both. And I would like for you to consider the idea that you don't actually know that much about angels and demons because you actually have not gone into study or research. And also surprise, you will be surprised how many books are out there that will employ angels and demons to work together to assist you at a common goal. So the narrative too that angels and demons are constantly fighting each other and like that there's this negative energy is also really there's just a lot of things that people don't realize. And I wish I would have known that at the beginning, because it would have changed a lot of negativity that I had around all these things and these misconceptions. And I probably would have been more interested in exploring those things and utilizing some of those energies in my practice. Okay, that's all I have to say. Not as important as the other things that I named, but something to think about. Learn your birth chart and find out in your birth chart what elements and aspects speak to your superpowers as a practitioner of magic. I think it's like your Pluto and your Lilith. Your Pluto, your Lilith, your Midhaven or something, or your North Node, like your purpose. And like, look into your chart too, because there's a lot of things in your birth chart that will show you what kind of magic that you might be more inclined to, that you might be more naturally good at. And that could be a good place for you to start practicing doing your magical workings with first. So people who say like, I feel like there's just so much that I can have to learn, but I just don't know what's right for me. Looking at your birth chart could be a great way to start there. It doesn't mean you can't expand and go into other places and be good at other things, but that could be a place where you begin and then kind of transform. Because if you have a natural gift there, you might be able to, use that until you can get your bearings in other places. Find as many reasons to do magic on a daily basis as humanly possible. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, find as many ways to do magic in your daily life as humanly possible. Why? Because the more you practice magic, the better you will get at it. It is a practice for a reason. So the more you do it, no matter how big or small that is, that could be blessing a cup of coffee or your meal, the meal that you're eating, or enchanting your glasses so that you always see the truth, or doing something on your altar, your money altar, lighting a candle for protection, taking a little bit of your oil, your essential oil, and rubbing your hands together and setting intention for the day. That could be setting a prayer, writing in your manifestation journal, whatever it is. As much magic and much magical things as you can do on a daily basis, do it. Things that you like, you enjoy, that make sense to you, big or small, whatever the case may be. You don't have to be lighting candles every motherfucking day. I don't know how you could afford to do that. I don't know how you not burn your whole house down. But if that's what you want to do you. But the more you do the magic, the better you will be at it. Shadow work is very important in magic. Shadow work is very important in magic. Do not skip shadow work because it doesn't help you get the immediate goal that you want. Sometimes the best and most helpful and healthiest things for us are the things that we don't immediately see the results for. Shadow work allows you to deal with the sides of you that sabotage you from getting the things that you want. The better you are at doing shadow work and having radical self-honesty about the things that are fucked up about you, that be fucking you up, the ways that you sabotage yourself, the way that you block your own blessings and dim your light, the way that you give up on yourself, this is going to inform you why your magic is not always hitting, why you're constantly finding yourselves in these situations negatively with people, you know, why you can't keep these relationships. Why do you feel like you always have to do a love spell on someone that you meet? Do you feel like you cannot be in a relationship with somebody unless you do a love spell on them? Where does that come from? Shadow work will help you unpack that. Same with your stability and your financial well-being. Same with creative blocks and writing blocks. Shadow work is so beneficial in so many aspects, and skipping over it is like trying to put a band-aid on a flesh wound. Magic is not going to cure you of all of your shit, but being honest with yourself and facing it so that you can address it and heal it, that's going to make it easier for, even if you realize, like, you know, I do have a hard time opening up, or I do have a fear of these things, then maybe you know that the next type of magic that you need to be doing is self-love work, is honesty work, whatever, a spell to make you more truthful with yourself and others. Maybe you realize that you lie a lot because you're afraid that people will not be, they won't like you unless you tell them what they want to hear. Maybe you feel like you're more people pleasing. You need to stand up for yourself and say no. Maybe that's the next spell that you need to do, an empowerment spell. Maybe you play small when you know you have something to offer. You know what I mean? This is where shadow work can be so beneficial. And if you skip it, you can't skip it. It'll always come and bite you in the ass, one way or another. So you might as well open that scary ass little closet door and say, come on out. I'm ready to meet you. Let's talk about it. And when you can face your shadow self, that's some brave shit. That's some really brave, big shit to face your shadow. And that's also big witch energy as well. And the last thing that I would like to say in this list of all the things I wish that I would have had someone tell me when I was starting the craft is to continue to learn to be a smart and authentic witch in everything that you do. Be original. Doesn't mean that you can't take inspiration from other witches. Doesn't mean that you can't be inspired by the things that other people do. We get inspired every day by the things that other people are doing. But be authentic to you. Don't just go along with trends, and don't just do things because you feel like it's going to get you accepted or because it's going to get you followers or views. Be authentic. People see that and they love that. And be smart. Be smart about your magic. Be smart about what you share. Be smart about how you talk. Be smart about what you give away. Be smart with yourself and how much you can handle and take in. And remember, you're always going to be learning. You're always going to be a student. You never stop learning. I'm learning new magics all the time, and that's what makes it so exciting, because you're never ever going to know everything about magic. You're only going to know a lot about a little. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Be blessed.
Pull out the candles, pull out the crystals, pull out the recipe.